If you've been keeping your eye on the crypto market, you're probably wondering to yourself, what the heck is going on? There's a whole bunch of altcoins that out of the blue have been pumping massive amounts, 80%, 100%, 150%, huge numbers completely out of the blue, no narrative around it. What exactly is going on? We're going to discuss that in today's video. There is something brewing, something big brewing, and we want to talk about, is this going to be sustainable? Is this going to lead into a longer term move? What are the best trade opportunities? Of course, what I've done with my positions and a whole lot more. Make sure you smash the like button, go through to the video over here. Smash the like button, helps us to get the show content out there. And let's get straight into it. So if you have kept your finger on the pulse of the market, if you've been watching the markets each and every single day, well, this has been the result. Look at those daily moves, right? Filecoin up 45%. What you probably also have to look at is the weekly, because that shows you the true result. 104% on Filecoin, and it's been one by one, like popcorn, right? Just each little kernel popping off over there one at a time. And many are wondering why. There are some interesting theories around it. First, let's look to the technicals. We'll talk about the interesting theories, and we'll talk about what it means for you guys. So first and foremost, I do want to have a look over here at Bitcoin dominance. If you were to treat this chart completely in isolation, it definitely does look more bearish than bullish. It does look like it wants to drop off over here. And I think it was last week, on Monday, that we actually highlighted this as an area of interest, and we said that might be a rejective zone that you'll see the Bitcoin dominance come into, and that's exactly what happened over there. But it's giving us conflicting evidence and data in relation to what the Bitcoin picture looks like, because Bitcoin looks weak. Bitcoin still looks weak, and you'll see that when I show you on the daily time frame. But when you look at this chart over here, you've had this trend that has, of course, been broken by these candles holding below. You've now rallied up, rejected off there, and right now this does look like it just wants to drop. And if this does drop, I guess that you can expect a whole lot more of this, and it means that these coins will absolutely go parabolic. We also saw yesterday quite a notable change in the others chart. This refers to the total cryptocurrency market cap. You look at that on CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko, and you subtract the majors, the top 10 coins on the list, Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, etc. Remove those which have a massive market cap weighting, and then this gives you the call it the altcoin sector index to see, is this going up or down? Well, it's been relatively very, very weak in comparison to what the total cryptocurrency market cap has been. But you are starting to see some signs of life over here with the potential for a big breakdown in Bitcoin dominance. Now, if this does happen, of course, you can expect that it's going to be fast and furious, and you probably want to be positioned in those coins. The best place to keep your finger on the pulse, of course, is always going to be in whale room, because if you actually have a look at this, even though this seems random, most of our traders over there have absolutely crushed it, right? Look at that trade over there on 𝗬𝗡, up. I believe it was 82% in 2 days, taking the trade over there from Chris at 470. Huge move. We have Josh as well, absolutely nailing some of these bottoms on Bitcoin as well as Ethereum. Beautiful trades over there, 745%. And 700 or 209% profit. And then even in the traditional markets, nailing those major lows that came in yesterday. I also want to talk about the stock market. I might have some opportunities for you guys there. So if you're not in whale room, it is closed, but join the waiting list. As soon as a spot opens up, we'll be able to inform you and pay attention to the Black Friday things that are going to be coming up. Now, I want to get a little bit more into this and exactly why this may be happening and the theories around it. Now, the TA trumps all, right? The technical analysis for me personally is my ultimate North Star, the thing that I focus on the most, because it removes the noise and it doesn't care about biases and opinions and narratives and things like that. It simply just has a look at, what is really happening under the hood. So irrespective of the theories, which I'm going to get into now, what is the theory? Well, the theory is that some big exchanges may have taken a much heavier hit on their books than what many anticipated. And that was, of course, from the initial sell-off that occurred over here around, I think it was the 10th of October, where we had that $20 to $40 billion worth of liquidations. And the theory is that, they trying to balance their books right now. And some of the coins that they got taken out on, they're probably scrambling to buy those coins before big audit comes in. And if that is the case, that would theoretically explain why at random you're just seeing coins go one by one. It hasn't been a rising tide lifts all ships where everything goes up at once. If that were the case, Well, you would have seen the total cryptocurrency market cap moving towards the upside, because this shows you where the money is. Is new money coming into the market, or is money leaving the market into USDT? And this is what I'm talking about. A lot of conflicting data. Nevertheless, if Bitcoin, even if this theory is true and Bitcoin dominance does actually start to break down, the chart, which is the ultimate source of all truth, will tell you that you're probably going to be going in for a bigger trending move. So you would definitely want to see a little bit of weakness leading into next week over here, and then of course continuation towards the downside. And these altcoin seasons, if they do play out, can happen very, very, very quickly. So don't go anywhere. Make sure that you're here each and every single day. Put the bell notification on, jump into Whale Room. If you want some of the free resources, of course, that's all on the Whale Trades website. You can follow me on socials, also linked over there if you want all that information, because it could get crazy very, very, very quickly. Now, I've explicitly said for months now, I am adopting a very active trading approach, right? Hodlers get punished. We're not hodlers here, we're traders, right? So we look for the trade opportunities, we take the trade, and we move on. If you look at Zcash, for example, I have outlined to Whale Room as well that I was actually selling last night. And you can see since then, price came down as much as 31%. Big drop off over there. So we're actively trading this market, looking for opportunities. And I try to bring you as much as I can on the YouTube video, but most of it is going to be in Whale Room, right? So let's move on. I want to quickly outline, and then we'll dive into this, where there could be opportunities when it comes to the altcoin sector, what's happening with the totals. Let's just actually move this up so we have it on the end over here. And then I first want to just highlight something to you that came to my attention in case I forget on Monday, and I don't want you guys to miss out on the trade opportunity. I did see that 𝗦𝗏𝗏 has now officially come into this parallel channel, which is held for one of the longest periods of time. So, of course, this being a Bitcoin ETF trust over here. And I think it can also be a bit of a confluent factor in alignment with everything else that you're looking at in terms of determining where's Bitcoin going next. Well, if this does bounce off of here, off of the lower boundary of the parallel channel, this will definitely be, an important area to coincide with Bitcoin also finding a major bottom. So there's a lot going on over here. I see. Quickly to answer this over here as well, Edward, I'm a hodler, right? Guys, I've been running polls to try and get to know you. These are completely anonymous. There's absolutely no possible way that we can gather this information, just to be clear. But you can go and vote in these polls, right? What percentage of your net worth is allocated to crypto markets? And the reason that I want to know this information is because over the last day or two, I'm trying to gather the level of, how exposed you are to the market, the level of conviction that some of you may have, and you can see what you guys are voting. And if I pull up some of that data, it's, in my opinion, a little bit scary. It depends on what your net worth is, right? But 51% of you have more than 50% of your net worth in the market. And if you look at yesterday's poll we ran, and you can go watch that video if you didn't see it, go and scroll through to the section where I talk about the polls. We had a poll that basically asked, what is your current, in terms of your crypto allocation, your portfolio that you've allocated towards crypto, what is your, how exposed are you in terms of USDT versus the actual market? So in the market. And the answer was more than 50 to 60% of you had 80 to 100% of your money in the market, which concerns me, because if that's the same people that have more than 50 or 50% of their net worth also allocated, this is a very, very dangerous position to be in, right? Unless you're a very active trader and you know exactly what you're doing, and you've been doing this for years and years and years, I highly recommend that you de-risk some, right? I honestly highly recommend that you de-risk some, or at least move into other markets, like at least diversify into, for example, traditional markets. But that doesn't mean take half of your net worth, which you got more than already in crypto. So let's assume you have 50% of your net worth allocated to crypto. And now you're going to take the other 25%, take 25% out and put it into 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏. That's not what I'm saying. 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏 is still crypto exposure. You would need to look more towards things like, S&P 500, NASDAQ, Dow Jones. If you really want to get smart over here, then you're looking at things like NVIDIA, Tesla on those dips. I do want to look at some of these as well today, right? So you need to stay away from the crypto related things if you over allocate it, because the market can go down in one single candle. We've seen it before many times where crypto or Bitcoin drops 20, 30% in a single day. And don't think that it can't happen. I do think it's less likely due to the natural bid that price has had. When I say the natural bid, it's, it's been slow and steady. So this shows you that we haven't really had FOMO in the market. And what that suggests is that probably you won't have people rushing for the exits like we did in price cycles where you're going to do that. But this still doesn't mean that you should be ignorant to your portfolio structuring. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, so it's not financial advice. But if you have, hundreds of thousands in net worth and more than 50% of that is allocated to the market, that creates a dangerous situation. If it's $10,000 net worth you're talking about and you have 5,000 in the market, cool. Most of you can absorb that and make that back very, very, very quickly. So that's different, right? You got to ask yourself in terms of time, in relation to your net worth, how long is it going to take to make it back if you lose it, right? Under the assumption that you lose it all. If it's you're talking about decades or a lifetime, guys, you're going to learn a hard lesson if that's the case, right? You need to be really careful. Anyway, I don't want to give you a pep talk. I just put the poll results up for informational purposes over here, and do with it what you will, right? Do with it what you will. I just think that it's a little bit scary. So let's continue. I do want to have a very quick run through over here with the stock markets, even though, of course, that they are closed. You did get quite a strong reaction from the S&P 500 over here on Friday. That was quite a big move over there, but it's still holding the high-low structure. But I didn't really want to see it drop below here. Maybe just a bit of a shakeout. We'll reevaluate if this moves up into Monday next week. Of course, that's gonna probably bode decently for the crypto markets and keep the hopium alive. Time is running out though, but it keeps the hopium alive. QQQ, same thing. A little quite a strong sell-off, but big reaction into the Friday close. Apple looks okay. NVIDIA, basically, you could probably start to re-enter the long trade because I'm just going to highlight the area of interest. This is your big SR flip. You've come back into that SR flip region, holding that level, and it's probably going to continue up. Okay, Tesla looks okay. Everything's holding up over there. Meta has been absolutely annihilated. You have to be careful of resistance now. Underside resistance if it runs up into 711. Google still looks okay. MicroStrategy coming down to the 200 moving average. Amazon has now fulfilled part of this gap over here. So this may be where you start to see support develop between about 233 and 240, right? So watch that area. Coinbase really fighting this level for support. Circle, I think, is going much lower, even if it bounces from here. Robinhood starting to threaten these levels, but look for a little bit of a consolidation. That will be good. MicroStrategy, we're still holding the short trade. It will probably bounce and set in a lower high, and then you're going to have continuation down. I am short on MicroStrategy as well, by the way, over here on Pinex. So for any of you that do want to participate with these trades, I'm going to be looking to do the same thing on here, setting up a grid trade for silver and gold, right? I'm more interested in the shorts on silver, but we're looking for weakness over here, and I might already start to scale in, maybe even today. Let's just see how the time goes. I'll move this chart up to the left-hand side. So if you do want that, use the link in the description below over here. While you guys smash the like button over there, Pinex is there. You're getting a $1,000 sign-up bonus. If you use that link, that's where we're going to trade it, and you can copy my settings. So let's move on. Let's get into crypto. Where are things at? What are we looking at? As mentioned, some of the crypto sphere is starting to show some hopium, purely in the fact that you're getting a rejection over here on the Bitcoin dominance, but the Bitcoin chart is still not in a healthy space, and it's on a knife's edge, right? Which means it could go either way. At any moment, we could see either a recovery or a strong move towards the downside. For anyone that is inexperienced, that phrase will annoy you because you haven't got to learn markets yet and understand probabilities and positioning in terms of risk, right? I'll explain a little bit further, so just stay tuned until the end, right? But the long to short ratio, pretty neutral over there. We saw a massive uptick over here in liquidation, still not over $1 billion. The split was almost equal, actually. A lot of shorts got liquidated, 323 million and 283 million on the long side. Now, very, very, very important is this chart, right? This is all going to tie up with everything that we're looking at. This daily exchange volume is starting to roll over, which is one of your warning signs. And we're not even pumping yet, which makes it even worse, right? This is why I say that Bitcoin is still not in a position of strength, and you're probably going to have another week of outflows, which is part of what we're looking for the reset. But the key point has been during this reset and the outflows, the ETF outflows, can Bitcoin defend $100,000 without losing it? Well, you're going to see how it all lines up together over here, but it's on a knife's edge. It could be lost at any moment, which simply means, how do you handle this? How do you play it? I don't think that you should be FOMOing into any positions. Take the independent trades that we give over here, both on the show and in Whale Room. And for your swing trades, which is your longer term positions, call it your HODL positions if you want to hold a position for weeks to months and you're hoping Bitcoin goes from here to 200K. I'm going to show you what you want to see. Wait for the confirmation, right? Be very, very, very careful. I'll unpack everything for you and show you, what you're looking at. But prices hanging around here. Basically, what I'm going to say is this: if you cannot catch a sizable bid, meaning this gets bought up before the end of this week, I have to become even more increasingly bearish, right? And you'll see how it all unfolds over here as we line everything up. But this will look even more likely to begin to fall through, and you'll start to drop below that 50 EMA, which is coming in at exactly that $100,000 mark. You're already below the 21 EMA. This is my first and earliest sign to exit the market. If you've ever done Whale School or any of the, gone through any of the materials that I've created, you've broken the stop and reversal indicator. Of course, that's not a good sign, right? That's the first thing. That's rolling down. That literally stands for what? Stop and reverse. Trend change, right? That's another way of saying the trend has shifted. Below the 21 EMA, not a good sign. The longer you hang around here, the more likely it is that this is going to start to fall through. So we spoke about this. We said that we at least need to see price reclaim 103,516. Line that up with the weekly. Basically, what I'm saying is, if you can't do that by Sunday close, by this weekly close, it's more likely you're going to break down. And when you break down, you already have confirmation of expansion. And again, I'm talking about Bitcoin, not altcoins. We'll get to altcoins in a moment. Just stay until the end. So this is confirmation that the move is happening. It's undeniable. The move is happening. When the Bollinger Band width percentile expands, it means the Bollinger Bands are opening up, and it means that the real move is taking place. Volatility has entered the market, and you tend to trade that with the direction of the trend, which is clearly down. So therefore, that means that realistically, you're coming down to about $88,000, $89,000, unless you have a strong weekly close and you can deviate and recapture that $103,000 level, right? That would be your higher time frame confirmation, which means that you'd probably have, so let's just double check it, 103,500. That would look something like this, 103,500, give or take. There you go. So you need to see a bit of a stronger close over here on the weekly. If this weekly can start to push up above this white line, that would look decent. If you hang around here, I'm leaning towards next week. It's gonna be chaos in the market. Things are gonna start to break down. Okay, so just to be clear, just to be crystal clear, 3 candles open and close below the key support, and we're working on the 4th. We now have the 4th. I wrote this yesterday to the Whale Room community, so we can add that in as an additional bearish factor and say, well, now we're working on the 5th. Okay, we're working on the 5th candle. We've already done 4. There you can see it over here. Full candles below. And I actually didn't even include this one, so it's even more. I'm just including this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're now working on the 5th. This starts to look like a bear flag below very, very, very key support, the yellow line. Below key support over here. Not a good sign, right? This is your SR flip. You're hanging below that. We call this gaining acceptance below key level, and we haven't even attempted to recover. So time has basically run out. You know, it looks bad. It looks bad. What else can I say? I'm just being honest with you. And again, this is a little bit of conflicting data because of the Bitcoin dominance chart, which looks like it wants to break down. But I will remind you as well, we have actually had prior cycles before where Bitcoin begins to distribute and altcoins absolutely fly because it's the final, call it the final hoorah, the last gasp of air, the last bit of money grab. But at the end of the day, our strategy doesn't change. We remain concentrated with less positions, very focused on each individual trade that we take, and we take the trade and we move on. We're not hodling any kind of a portfolio. It's too risky. It's too dangerous. Don't get caught up into the FOMO of individual random things popping, right? If we look at Filecoin over a 1 year chart, that's what it looks like. It's absolutely horrendous. Like, seriously, it's just been down only. Cool, yeah, you got a random pump out of nowhere, but it's not a good looking chart overall. And most of these charts will look like that. Let's actually see what render looks like. So render, same thing. It's just purely a downtrend, right? Go and look at the meme on Twitter, right? Those people that celebrate the 0.1% pump after being down 99.9%. So don't lose sight of the major high time frame trends and get caught up in, just trying to, what's it called? Spray and pray, where you're going to throw all your money at everything and just hope that it's going to pump. So we're still below the RSI pivot level. That means your daily RSI is trending down. The longer you spend time around here, the much more likely this is to just fall through. And that's the truth. That's the reality. It is what it is. Therefore, I told you, wait for confirmation. What does confirmation look like? Well, your earlier confirmation, and this is still a risky trade, would be the reclaim of this 103,500. If you extra cautious, very cautious, which I recommend in this environment you should be, what you would want to see is this. You need price to travel above 111,500, which means you are going to buy higher, but it is what it is, right? You need to see this. You need to see price rally all the way up. It would get really aggressive, probably even into that mid-range if it did happen, and then throw back to create a higher low over there. There's your low. That becomes a high low. The good news is then you would have recaptured this trading range, and you can call that all a deviation back above the trading range, right? That's for Bitcoin. And for anyone wondering, we spend a lot of time on Bitcoin because Bitcoin is the king of the crypto market. At the end of the day, it is, right? It dictates everything. It holds the most liquidity in the market. It's where all the big players are trading. And basically, everybody just determines the health of the crypto market by looking at Bitcoin. And that's why we focus so much on Bitcoin. So I don't view this as bullish at all. I view this as incredibly bearish, despite what your Twitter timeline or X timeline might look like. And that in itself is a signal in its own, right? Why? Well, I would have thought that you'd get a bit of euphoria rallying up. And what we wanted to look at is what is the sentiment on the timeline, Twitter timeline, etc., look like, YouTube timeline, with a rally into the underside resistance. And if that fear and greed index begins to rise, here it is. Let's go back to the fear and greed index. If that fear and greed index, which is still sitting at 20, begins to rise, right? You start to get into these zones, like the orange regions and stuff, like the 60s, the 50s, within that region, while price is coming into underside resistance with low volume. Remember the volume chart I said we'll come back to this, which is turning over right now. Then that becomes an incredibly strong signal that this is going to be your bearish retest, and you actually have to probably go short there. Okay. So the thing is about the timeline, we did nothing in terms of a daily chart. Literally, we did that on a daily chart, and the timeline is going absolutely ballistic. Of course, it's mostly because of random altcoins, but as I just showed you what the yearly chart looks like, don't lose sight of that. It's insane. So this is very, very valuable information for us to look at. The real money is made in those beautiful uptrends, and I don't necessarily think that we're there yet, right? In the altcoin sector. There are some signs of life, as we spoke about, if we look at the others chart. But if we have a look at others against Bitcoin, well, that's what it looks like. Down only. So it's still not looking good. Okay. So you got to be careful out there, right? Control your psychology. So there's a lot that needs to happen over here. My summary of what we've discussed so far over here is there is some hope for individual trades in the altcoin sector, but Bitcoin still independently looks very bearish to me. And if the theory is true around why these alts have pumped, well, there's no retail really involved. Like, usually people look at the altcoin sector and they say that, hey, retail are back, everything is pumping. But I wouldn't say that is the case. If the theory is true that it is, large exchanges that are trying to balance their books over here before getting a mass audit, that means that there's not really any other buy pressure that's coming behind these tokens just yet. Now, can that change? Of course, it can change. We'll get into the altcoins in a moment on the lower time frames. But yeah, I think that it's important that you have all the information at your disposal so that you know what to do, right? You know what to do. And I think that similar to trading a trend, I like to think of it like this. When you are trading, typically what you want to do is you have a weekly uptrend, okay, which comes into, let's say, a higher low, all right? Then you have a daily uptrend. So the daily is also in an uptrend. And your aim is to try and time the daily uptrend with the weekly high low. So if you get a daily high low with a weekly high low, and now maybe your hourly is in a downtrend, and then you break structure, so you get a little bit of a break of structure, market structure shift over there, and you come into the high low. And I'm just going to circle it and to make this like a real work of art for you guys. This hourly market structure shift into a high low coincides with the daily high low and the weekly high low. That becomes a wonderful trade, okay? But what I wanted to say regarding that, my point that I'm trying to make, is I kind of like to think about positioning into altcoins, if I am going to position into altcoins, in exactly the same way. I think that your Bitcoin trends need to be moving towards the upside before you get too giddy and excited about over allocating into the altcoin sector. Okay. So that is my thoughts, right? That is my thoughts when it comes to these things over here. I basically am saying I want to see Bitcoin establish some strength, reclaim some key levels. I always teach us and say this is, ask yourself this question: did you just gain a level or did you just lose a level? And as of right now, this has lost a level. This is not good. This has lost a level, right? So you want that to regain a level. You also have liquidity building now below price action at $99,000. And on a 24-hour look back period, this is still sizable. This is over 20 million, which anything we say over 20 million is significant on the daily time frame, which means market makers are likely to send price towards that. So anyone that did FOMO into these kind of things, into the market over the last 24 hours chasing price, if you didn't get in early, I'm very proud of the whale room traders over here crushing it. But if you didn't get in early, then they're probably going to come for this liquidity. Okay. So we will see. We'll see what happens. Daily chart on USDT dominance, doing the inverse of what Bitcoin is, which is consolidating, creating possibly another bullish order block ready for another move towards the upside. And you need to be aware of that and careful of that, right? It has on the lower time frame started to clear some levels, but it's not good enough yet, right? On a closing basis, you did create a new lower low. So here's been your I guess your major low, your high low, your next high low, potential lower low. So if this does push up over here and start to show some sort of resistance and reject, maybe you put in a trend line coming down over there and it starts to reject. And then you can start to take out these lows, which is where we put this arrow yesterday, and break below the 50 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. Then you might have a chance of a proper reversal, which probably coincides with this. At the end of the day, the strategy remains the same. We look for the best trade of the day, and we take those trades, right? Okay, so we haven't had a close above here. I think that if Bitcoin's weekly closes bearish, chances are this will begin to push through, and then reality will begin to set in that this looks like a breakout. You do have big resistance coming in over here on the USDT dominance weekly chart, but I guess if you're trading above this at like 6.38, we're in a bear market. Okay, so don't lose sight of that. Very, very, very important. What else do we have over here? Let's quickly check the deltas. So you can see some of them have flipped positive. That's Asta has gone positive. Sonic has gone positive. Sonic had an absolutely massive move as well. Sui was positive, starting to flip negative, Bitcoin negative, ETH negative, Solana negative, but these are not heavily negative, which when you line this up, you can see that's why it's kind of 50-50 in terms of the long to short ratio. Okay. Let's see. What else? Look, for this comment over here, it's a good comment. He's saying that he went to bed happy, after being worried, and now I'm kind of like crushing the sentiment and the dreams. Look, I think that use it as an opportunity, because if price is coming into underside resistance on altcoins in, like, for example, the daily timeframes, which is the case, this is actually a wonderful opportunity for you to go 3 months back in time, and when you wanted to maybe take some off the table, now you have that chance. Any big move like this will be retraced to a certain extent, even if it is more bullish. Let's say like it's going to position into a longer term bullish trend. You're still going to have to come back, retrace those inefficiencies, put in a high low, and then continue. Okay, cool. We'll review the trades that I've given. So the trades that we gave in Whale and also I covered it on YouTube. I believe I just didn't label it for you guys. Maybe I did. I can't remember. We looked at these levels over here for Bitcoin, target 1, target 2. Those were hit. This got super, super sketchy with closes down here. But price at the end of the day did rally back towards the upside. What I think you should be looking at now is if you are still in those long trades, you've eliminated your risk. You've moved your stops to break even. And these were all dropped in Whale Room, just to be clear, just in case anybody is wondering. Everything was dropped here. Last night we were praying, right? All of us. Look at that. And it worked. Got price up. Look at that. Price did move. Price did move up, right? These were the original trades that we looked at. Here they are. Let's just go back because some people like to say that it's hindsight trading, right? BTC, ETH hype. We're looking at target 1, target 2. ETH, we're looking at target 1, target 2. Hype, we're looking at target 1, target 2. So we can review those at the moment. So target 1 hit, target 2 hit, price played out. Now, what I think you should look at, because at the end of the day, even on the hourly time frame, you need this to shift, right? This is still lower highs and lower lows, right? At the end of the day, it's still lower highs and lower lows. But that's okay. We looked at the long trade opportunities over here in the hopes that things would start to move up. So there's a couple of levels that I want to mark off. Okay, I'm first going to mark off an extremely low time frame 50% level over here. And I think I'm just going to draw a box around this area because this is where you want your next high low to form. And then I'm going to show you, and then we'll delete this and we'll change the color as well, the color scheme over here so there's no confusion. Let's go with pink, right? Okay, so we got that, right? If price pulls back now, this is essentially where you want to see support. You don't want price to drop back below 100,850. Otherwise, it's unlikely to put in a high low. So we haven't really had any massive shift. Everything is still kind of bearish. But if you can bounce from here and begin to put in a high low and work your way up, this can start to look hopeful. Okay, so I'm going to give you two levels that you have to look at. The other level is we need to consider where a lot of this breakdown occurred, and we need to recover 50% of that trading range. So we're also going to mark that level off. And for this one, should we also do it in pink? Then you know those are the two levels. You can see over here, this is a bit of underside resistance. You can see underside resistance. It lines up with the Monday low, and that is also your 50% level. So let's delete that. And this is basically what you want to see. If you're bullish, this is what you want to see. This is what needs to happen. You need price, even if it bounces right over here and it doesn't make it to the pink box, but price needs to hold basically above $100,000. Okay, set in a high low, grind your way up. However you get there, it doesn't matter, but we need to see price get and hold above this level. If you can get and hold above 105,200, should we label it, right? So that we can go back in the future and we can show this and look like absolute heroes like we did earlier this week. Let's do that. So there's one level. Okay, there is your other level. So if price labeled it for you 101,200-ish, I'll go on the lower end because you don't want to lose that. You don't want to lose that level. You want to recapture this level. So you want to see a high low in this pink box. Then you want to see it rally up. You want to see it recapture 105,305. If this happens, just to be clear, this is probably only going to happen early next week. This could happen this weekend by Sunday, but the recapturing of 105K is probably only next week. Then you know that things are looking healthier and it's okay, right? We can breathe again. Next, let's do the same thing for Ethereum. So we want to measure from this low to this high. We want to mark out between the 0.618 and the 50% level, which means you want to hold essentially the yearly open. We got it, right? Let's price label it. I'm going to go on the lower end. Generally, you don't want to see price break below 3,200. Then we want to go from the breakdown level to the bottom and work out where is 50%. And similar to Bitcoin, it's very close to that Monday range. So ETH is looking a little bit stronger. We want to see ETH begin to recapture this region over here. Okay, in pink. this region over here, and we'll price label it. I'll label the 50% level. Okay, cool. So we got that. That's out the way. All right. Now, what about hype? I'm just going over the ones that we gave long trades on, which this bounced off of the first target. Next, let's go to hype, Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid, we said, has been one of the stronger looking ones. Hit the first target, bounced. Same exercise. We're going to go from the recent lows to the high. You want it to hold the 50% level, which is exactly where price is right now. There you can see price has tagged that 50% level. So I'm going to give a little bit of breathing room down to the 618 in case it drops a little bit further. Pink box. You want to hold that pink box. Then we want to see it rally and recover the 50% level. So we go from the high down to the low, and your 50% level is exactly where you've currently rejected. All right, at the Monday high. Okay, let's put our label in. There we go. And let's put our pink box, just so you guys know. There is the level, and we can delete everything. Okay, cool. So there, that's your picture. This is what you have, right? So again, let's just review it. So Bitcoin didn't even make it to the 50% level. You have to consider that it's risky and weak until it gets above that. ETH also it's attempting the 50% level right now, this zone over here. You have to acknowledge and accept that it's risky and weak until it gets above here. Hyperliquid, also exactly the same thing, which already rejected from that level. You have to accept that it's risky and weak as long as it's below that level. But the optimistic case is that you put in a higher low over here, and that gives you enough momentum to break and hold above. And if you break and hold above, things shift. Okay, cool. So there is some of the opportunities, which would theoretically mean if you missed the first trade on Hyperliquid or on ETH, then this is your next zone, right? This is where you want to start to study the chart on the low time frame over the course of today, and you want to see those high lows begin to form. And we can throw in a bit of a trend line, right? If it pulls back a little bit deeper, you know, maybe you get something like this. Maybe you do bounce and you come down one more time into there, and that becomes the buy. So therefore, this becomes the buy, little arrow over there, new stop loss over there. The previous stop loss, I know my head's in the way. Previous stop loss was down here below those candles. Okay, so that is the trade plan. That is what you're looking at. For those of you that want to take this trade free, you can basically take this trade for free. This is how you do it, right? Go to the link in the description below. This is your final day. It's your last chance, your last opportunity. As Eminem says, you know, you got one moment to capture it, to not let it slip. This is it. This is the moment. You need to go to the link over here to BitUnix. They're giving a massive sign-up bonus, which you can use for free to take that trade. That means that you don't have to risk your money. You make 20% rebate immediately by signing up with that link. It's a special for you guys. There it is. I recommend, you know, go with about $2,000 because they'll give you $400 in your futures account. Take that $400 and then take this trade for free. Literally. Easy as that, right? There you go. Stops go below and we trade. This becomes an ascending triangle breakout and you can start to trade it back towards these highs, right? That's a free trade. So if that works out, and you can go and leverage with that, right? Take that $400 if you want and go on whatever, 10x leverage. And then you're trading with $4,000. So if that price move happens, you can do the math, right? You're going to make money. Cool. Alrighty. So we've gone through a whole lot over there. We can go through a couple of other altcoins over here as well, since a lot has changed within the market. But for the rest, I want to focus more on the higher time frames because we don't want to lose sight, like I said, of those higher time frame trends. You know, we don't want you to buy the tops over here. We've seen things go crazy in these markets before. It's possible that, you know, these things just keep ripping. But for that to happen, you probably need to see a longer term consolidation. So if, for example, Filecoin is just going to continue to melt up, you're going to have to manage your risk very, very, very carefully. All right. Let's review before we go into some of these other things, guys. This is limited as well. I forgot to mention. So you can see over here, it ends tomorrow, the 9th of November. So you have, call it 24-ish hours left to take advantage of this incredible opportunity for free money. But also this is limited. It's limited to the first 250 people. So I don't know, it's while spots are still available, right? If you want it, use it over there. Let's check the poll. Go back to the poll over here. Okay, you guys are still voting away. Okay, now we got a lot of data, right? 1,426. I'm going to screenshot that. And then we'll bring it up on Monday. Okay. Guys, come to the principal's office on Monday. I have to have a word with you all because 52% of you have more than 50% of your net worths in crypto. I mean, it's okay. I mean, you do you, right? You do you. You have a better chance than the lottery, that's for sure. So it's still okay, right? But I think you just be careful, right? If those of you have more than $1 million in the market exposed and your net worth is $1 million, that's a little bit scary. I didn't know that I had such a degen group of people that follow me, but I thought you guys were all professional risk managers. So one way that you can offset some of this risk on a serious note, 2 ways. Don't kill yourself with leverage, right? Don't overtrade with leverage. Like if you are doing that and you come to Whale School, I talk about this a lot. You want to use a very small portion of your portfolio for leverage. And the other way that you can offset some of this risk, which I'm not necessarily a massive fan of, when it comes to the broader crypto market, but I guess it works very, very well for Bitcoin, and that's dollar cost averaging. You can offset some of that risk by dollar cost averaging because it's, it will average you down if price is going down. Okay, cool. All right, let's continue. Professional gaming gamblers is what you guys say over here. Anyway, let's continue. So let's have a look at some of these other charts. Let's go on the weekly timeframes just to get a bit of a high time frame overview. We need things to settle down anyway for the rest of the market. I think Zcash came into a pretty key level. Just by the way, let's go back to our chart over there. Despite profit taking, this was a key 50% level. So if you look over here, this is a key 50% level. Where do we go from? The low to the high, and it's holding the 50% level. Plus, you do have some key support over here. You can see I had a little bit of a consolidation. So this is like a little bit of an order block that led to that upside move. Price came back into there. So if you were looking for a trade as well, that's another one you can take on BitUnix. I don't want to overtrade. I've already got a lot of trades on the table, but everyone wants to know what's the trade of the day. That's another trade. You could take this trade, right? This is pretty much even at this level over here, you could take this trade on Zcash. So even if Zcash sets in a complacency bounce, my guess is that the complacency bounce or the resistance is going to come in over here. And let's measure that out. Let's quickly use our fib. Let's see. I would say the golden pocket, maybe even the 0.786, because it's been an extremely volatile coin. So you can get extremely volatile moves. And look at that. Where is it? Right there, exactly where I said I think you'll reject. I get this information based on this candle. Price came down, set in a little bit of a lower high, and then marks down. Therefore, even the bounce off that 50% level can lead up here and then complacency bounce. So those are the two levels. The other level that you probably have to mark off is the 786, which I'm going to do for you now. Let's just do it. 786. So I wouldn't worry too much about the 50% level because I think that this has been more of an aggressive move. So I think it will have an aggressive move back towards the upside, which means I think that it will run through that 50%, where ordinarily in normal moving markets we'll look for a rejection on that 50%. So I would say this is your, if it were to fail and reject, it's going to reject from that pink box, which I will price label for you. There we go. I'll price label it for you. Between those two levels. So theoretically, you could long here. Okay, you could long from here. Tight stop below. Trade it up. Minimum trade, $668. That's still a 14 to 15% move, giving you a 1.63 to 1 risk to reward ratio. And maybe even you can run up higher, 21% move. Even if it rejects, right? Even if it rejects. And then if it does, it's actually probably worth shorting at that point. Okay. Let me know what you guys think of that. Is that good enough for you? Am I worth watching? My self-worth is determined by the number of likes, guys. Please help me to have a good weekend here. Okay, so look, on a serious note, the chart might chop around here a little bit, but if you can gather an entry, look at how you can drastically change your risk profile over here. Like, for example, if you get even a little bit of a pullback down towards this wick and you can get an entry at like 559, you can see that's going to look really good, right? Then you're talking about almost a 5-to-1. So I think these are some of the good trade opportunities. What are the trades that we've given today? So I've shown you hype. Hype is a trade. This is a trade. This is a breakout trade. Like, it's kind of annoying because you're belonging straight into resistance. That's why it's worth always watching the shows, because we gave the levels down here. Same thing for hype. You would have got into those trades earlier, but this does look like it wants to consolidate and make a move. This is on ETH, on the low time frames, right? It looks to me like this thing wants to prepare for a bigger move up and then hopefully flip that into support. Let's go to BTC. So BTC, also decent risk to reward over here. You could be building a long trade over here on Bitcoin. Stops below these recent lows now. Obviously, it's a little bit further away. Like, that's like 3% of a move, but still, nevertheless, it's interesting. Otherwise, you have to trigger a really, really tight trade with a stop right now below this hourly candle and just hope that this runs from here. So you're basically longing over here, stop below there, and you just risk a small amount. If you get stopped out, you re-enter back at about 100,000. Okay, no guarantees in life, right? Only probabilities. These are just probabilities. What about the funding rates of Zcash? I guess a good question, but it's not something that I'd be too concerned about right now. These things can get really, really, really extreme. And it's not the same as MYX. Like, this does have a little bit more value to it. So it does have a bit more value to it, but you just want to trade it, right? You guys know the saying, date it, don't marry it, right? Don't marry these things. Just take the trades and move on. That's what we're doing. We just take the trade and we move on. Like, 𝗬𝗏 has been horrendous the whole cycle. Terrible, terrible, terrible coin. Everything that we're taking over here in Whale Room, we just trade it. Again, guys, if you do want to just join into the waiting list over there, there's a link below. If you are interested in joining Whale Room, if you get accepted, by the way, this month and the Black Friday special comes out, we'll still offer that to you, and we will basically, I need to use the right wording over here, but you'll basically be covered for whatever the cost is that you would have put in if you did join this month and you make it in. I don't control the waiting list. That's part of the team. It's dependent on how many people are in there, because we want to limit the number of people in Whale Room to keep it tight and concise. Look, the guys are absolutely crushing it over here. If you look at the P&L cards, let me just remove this so you can see. So my head's not in the way. These are the traders, right? This is the Whale Room members in here. These cards on the left-hand side is everybody trading. They're absolutely destroying these markets. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful stuff. Also, guys, follow me over here on Instagram if you're not already. There's a link over there. I'm going to put up so just click that on the Whale Trades site. You can go and follow me over there. I'm going to be putting up a questionnaire over there for any of you that have particular questions. I'll do like ask me anything. If you have anything you want to ask about life or the markets or whatever, I'll be engaging over there with you guys a bit more. So that is it from me. Thank you guys so much for joining. I do appreciate each and every single one of you. I think I've given you enough trades. You have hype, you have ETH, you have BTC, and you have Zcash. I hope you make great money this weekend and you can enjoy that with your friends and family. I'm going to see you guys all on the next one. I'll catch you on Instagram actually later today or tomorrow. Cheers for now.